Welcome to Music in the Making. We are 3 high school and junior high music teachers from West Central Illinois. Each week we will talk about our experiences in the classroom, community, and personal lives too. We're no experts by any means, but any help we can provide to our audience of music friends is why we pursue this new venture. Please welcome your hosts, Lisa Hallen, Art Martinez, and Kevin Ferry. Okay, well, welcome to the second episode of Music in the Making. We would have done it yesterday, but we had questionable weather, as they say. And I know for my town that I live in, it was a bit more like dark clouds and a lot of random rain and whatnot. But I don't know about Monmouth. What did Monmouth get? Anything?
At one point, it was rainy, but at one point, it was just one of those deals again where like, okay, we got out of school early because it's raining. And then all heck broke loose.
Yeah.
I mean, the sirens went off, and we never had anything major happen here as far as I could tell. I did hear some funnel cloud-ish stuff over by the airport. Yes, Monmouth does have an airport.
Big time.
But like I checked with our athletic director who lives out by the airport, and he said no, absolutely nothing out there. And I get that Monmouth's not that big of a town, but you know it takes every bit of 5 minutes to drive from my house to the airport, so you know.
But we're big enough to have an airport, and that's what's
we are.
Well, so we apologize for being a little day late, but because we plan on recording and sending our episode out every Friday afternoon. So for those of us who are following closely,
We've already disappointed them.
Yeah, I know. We apologize profusely, but we're back. We're here. We're ready to go, and so let's get started. So today's topic is solo and ensemble. So we just finished a week ago our junior high solo and ensemble contest. But we'll talk a little bit about more of that a little bit later. But generally speaking, you know, we just wanted to talk about solo and ensemble contest, how we do it, some things that we like about it, and I think just to kind of give people an idea who have obviously never done it before, or have like maybe did it in high school or junior high when they were in school, but now they are maybe directors and they kind of want to know what it's like to be in that process. So we figured we'd just kind of share what all that means. So the first question is, what is solo and ensemble? I think there's many ways to slice it. Personally, I think it's an opportunity for students to get better at their instrument through a solo or an ensemble. And the ensemble term in this instance is like anything that is more than one person by themselves, hence the solo part. I think generally it's such a cool thing. When I was in middle school, I think I did it like once and twice, and then high school it was like maybe one time. Where I went to school it was different than around here. But I'm so happy to see how Monmouth does things. It was really exciting this season. So, am I leaving anything else out? How to describe solo and ensemble? Or like any words that come to mind?
Well, I was just, as you were saying, anything more than one. So for IHSA, which is the set of rules we follow, ensemble is 2 through 8, and then there's another category which is choirs, which have to have 9 people through 20.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. I guess it depends on the organization that you go through. So yeah, IHSA is the organization that we...
Which stands for Illinois High School Association.
Yes.
For our Colorado listener.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah. Didn't you also say we have someone in
We had someone in Mexico listening.
There you go. Thank you for listening all the way. Or international. We already made it.
Yeah. 1 week in Mexico.
They might both be related to me, but they listened.
Fantastic.
Senora Hallen. Distant cousin. Anyway. So, but yeah, so it depends on the organization that you use. Like, there's also 2 more organizations that can host a solo ensemble contest. So for junior high, we use IESA, so Illinois
elementary.
Elementary, yeah, I was going to say educator.
Association.
That's not right. Elementary, and then there's also IGSMA, IGSMA, that's Illinois Grade School. I'm trying to think of the M-A. Music.
Association.
It's been a little bit. In my last job, we used IGSMA, and then I was so confused for a while because I'm like, wait, there's IESA also, so like, what's the difference? But different organizations, they sometimes have different rules and anything. So anyway, so that's basically the premise of what solo ensemble is and means. So if you are one of those people that take advantage of that in your new job or would like to take advantage in the future, something to look forward to. All right, so what is all of our favorite parts about solo and ensemble? Anyone want to go first?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the biggest things that I like about solo and ensemble is the dedication that we give to it. So, and I understand that some people in their curriculum don't necessarily do this, but several years ago, I adopted, because I'm the only choir guy, so I can kind of do what I want curricular-wise. So I adopted that once we get back from the Illinois Music Educators Conference, IMEC, we start solo and ensemble season, which means I stop all full choir activities and we concentrate solely on solo and ensemble. And it's that 5-week process from when we get back at the end of January to when we have contest at the beginning of March that our kids are being worked with one-on-one and two-on-one because we vocally all we do are solos or duets. And we can get into the reasons why we do that and the strategy and maximizing all that stuff at another time. But I love the fact that for 5 weeks, our kids are getting individualized instruction. They're working on their instrument only, their voice. And then after that solo and ensemble, we've had a 5-week period where they've just gotten a lot better. And then when we come back as a choir, you hear a gigantic difference. So probably the number one thing that I love most about solo and ensemble is that we designate that 5 weeks to working on the individual voice, because most people just don't. You're working on the full choirs, and you may have a handful of kids that take voice lessons, especially in a small school. We don't have the advantage of having umpteen vocal lesson teachers in our town. So if I and anybody that I can bring in can help benefit that over 5 weeks, it just makes our choir better, and I'm willing to make that sacrifice for our kids to get better in that 5-week span.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Okay, so the process. Miss Hallen, what is your favorite part?
My favorite part is definitely just seeing the kids do this thing that is so outside some of their comfort zones, and so outside a lot of adults' comfort zones too. They are getting up there and performing music.
Organic.
Wow, whose phone's going off today?
I'm really confused because the alarm said solo and ensemble. Why would I have a... That's really spooky for 5:15 p.m.
So in case you didn't hear that, Miss Hallen's alarm just went off to remind her about solo and ensemble. Ooh.
Which was last week.
Which was also last week.
Somebody didn't turn their alarm off.
Yeah, maybe. Do you have a recurring? Maybe. Anyway.
I don't know.
Anyway,
okay,
sorry, going on.
I was about to get into a deep moment too.
You were.
That really okay, but it's music is a really vulnerable thing, and they are getting up and saying, performing this thing that they've put a lot of work on for 2-3 months, and especially we just got off of junior high one, so seeing those 5th and 6th graders perform in front of a judge and
an audience,
10, 15
of their
people.
Peers.
Yeah. Every time I'm just like so proud. I was like tearing up at our the central program last week because we had a bunch of 6th graders perform solos in front of 300 people, and just like, holy cow, the confidence that is like why we do this. There's a lot of reasons why, but just the fact that these kids, and a lot of times it's the really quiet kids, like two of them I'm thinking of, like, they just sit quietly in class and perform in front of these people like it's nothing, and it's just so cool to see that opportunity and to see them step outside their comfort zones over and over. And now I've been here long enough that I'm seeing that from 6th grade through now they're doing 8 events in high school.
And real music.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, and real music.
Yes.
Right? And we all understand, like, the 5th, 6th grade, sometimes
Yes.
the 7th and 8th grade, they're doing some much easier stuff, and they need to, obviously, but once they start taking that step into actual music that has actual measures and maybe a modulation, or they're singing in foreign language, or there's, whether it be Latin or Italian or German, and just seeing that growth all the way through is pretty cool. So, Mr. Martinez, this is your first year seeing solo and ensemble on steroids.
Yeah. Oh, for real.
Basically. So,
and
because you've alluded to, the fact that, and I know Miss Allen was the same way when she came to Monmouth Roseville. She's like, yeah, we did solo and ensemble, but it was a thing. But
yeah, it was more of like an extracurricular, or like if you really wanted to. And I think it was one thing to also keep in mind is if you're a maybe student teacher, or if you're in your first year, and you might have your own view of solo and ensemble because of like your own personal. I don't think that me not doing solo and ensemble the way that we do a solo and ensemble like prevented me from being the musician I am today. I mean, it probably would have benefited more, but I think just something to keep in mind is that if you feel that you as a director want to push for solo and ensemble, then you should advocate for that. Of course, our testimonies are one of many that would say that solo and ensemble is good. Depending on where you are, it might be the ensembles that you need to push for. But I will say this. If you're the kind of person who is very like, I have to give my gifted students, my students who are just like, they're getting private lessons, they're like super, like every lesson I give them privately or like in class is just way too easy, you need to be doing solo and ensemble. Okay, this is the opportunity for those students to be like wowing people because all they do is band, or all they do is choir, or all they do is band and choir. They need that opportunity for them to shine on their instrument. Ensemble is for working together. It is for listening and training your ear to be aware of not just the individual. When you do solo and ensemble, it is so much more individual, and it requires a lot more brain power. I mean, I think for me personally, like after going through this solo and ensemble season, like Miss Hallen said, and Mr. Ferry said also, you see these kids go from being one level or at one level and then explode within only like a few weeks. And that's because they are concentrating on like one piece of music or 2 or 3 pieces of music at most. When we're in the ensemble, they're focusing on their own individual part, but depending on what instrument they play, it's like, at least for band, what instrument they play, it's different than everybody else, or it's easier depending on what you play. I mean, I'm a bassoon player. I get tuba parts. I get nothing interesting. Much.
Fourth trumpet.
Fourth trumpet, right. Fourth trumpet, what is that? It's basically like tuba, but for trumpet. So it depends on what you have. And then if you're Miss Hallen, you just play the ands because you play horn. So especially during Souzas. Miss Hallen loves a good Sousa.
Shout out Kyle Barsinger.
Yes. So anyway, so I think that most importantly, one thing that I've learned now that I've, like Mr. Ferry said, seeing how Monmouth does things, the culture and the importance of solo and ensemble, it just makes the kids better, generally speaking. Like overall, I mean, and we'll get a little bit into what the day of looks like in a bit, but I was just so shocked in a good way, and if anything, the students were shocking me of how much they improved in only just a few weeks of having individual lessons or being able to work with a friend on a duet or a small ensemble or working together in a smaller ensemble that kind of emulates what a full concert band is or full choir is, but because it's only like maybe one person on a part, it's a little bit more intense, but it's intense in a good way. So
there's that accountability. No one can hide.
Right, exactly. Which again, for your gifted students or your students who are probably gifted, they just need an opportunity to do so, like solo ensemble is the way to go. All right, so actually, I don't think I said. Well, my favorite part of solo ensemble, I guess, maybe to clarify, is I just love seeing the growth as well. I think just seeing, people who've maybe even never done it before, in junior high doing it for the first time, and they're like, "Oh, this isn't so bad." It's like, see, it really isn't, because you see other people doing it, upperclassmen doing it, and you see the the time that they're putting in, and so it only makes you want to just be better, especially if you're in a group with a friend. You want to not let them down, and they also don't want to let you down, so you work together and working hard and just trying to get the final product out there for the judge. All right, so let's go over the timeline. Mr. Ferry kind of talked a little bit about the choir. So choir hands out music in January.
Somewhat. It's a little bit different than that. There's a little more to it than that. We have a concert in the fall, like the third Sunday in fall, full choir concert, and then after a concert you need a little bit of a break. And our Christmas concert is almost 2 months away. And just philosophically, I do a little bit easier Christmas music for several different reasons that we'll talk about at another time. But that week after the fall concert is when I initially ask who's going to take a solo to solo and ensemble. And I'll tell you, this has been a process over 14 years of being at Monmouth that has become a lot simpler for me on the vocal side. It used to be in the past where I'd have to, grab that kid that was pretty good or above average and that said they weren't going to take a solo. I'm like, you need to take a solo, and basically twist their arm in order to do it. For the past several years, I asked that question on the day after the fall concert, and this year we had 85 kids in choir total first semester. I said, how many of you want to take a solo? And 65 kids raised their hands. So, and that's not twisting any arms. So I compile a list of each class who's got a solo. And from that, all those kids that are interested in taking a solo, I pair them up into duets. I will have a couple of kids that will say, I'll take any ensemble you want, but I won't take a solo, which has always baffled me, because you're singing your own part. You may be singing with somebody else, but you're singing your own part. It's just like singing a solo. But that I get the comfort of having somebody standing right next to you singing. So, and then this year, especially our accompanist, Al Silber, and I sit down and we go through every kid and we pick out a solo for every one of those kids. And he has spent hours upon hours scanning music. So we have, digital files of all of the solos that the kids have ever done, or all the duets that they've ever done. We also have recordings of each part and the accompaniment. And so we pick all that stuff out, and then we share that file, the spreadsheet with all their names, their solo, their accompanist, and then we share the folder with them so they can just go and click and find their solo, find their recording, and they have it right on their phone or iPad or Chromebook or whatever. So they have that music probably starting in November. And then, believe it or not, in this day and age, we still have to make paper copies of everything 2 or 3 times. Yes. Oh, I lost my music. I lost my music. Right? Yeah. We've all dealt with that. Yeah. But then again, the big timeline concrete is that end of January, first week of February week, and then it's balls to the wall until the first Saturday in March.
Mm-hmm.
So do you find that most of them have spent a lot of time with those recordings?
I find that most of them have spent some time with those recordings, and most of the time that's enough. But we all, as music teachers, and any music teacher that's listening, know, and my 2 daughters that just went through this, most kids wait until the last minute. Mm-hmm. And I know we're a little bit different beast here. I'm very fortunate to be able to have accompanists come in and work with our kids, and our accompanists are retired music teachers. So that's really, really, I mean, band-wise, we have the exact same thing. We're very fortunate that our retired teachers from Monmouth Roseville have stuck around, and we've got a couple of retired teachers from Galesburg that help us out a bunch. But they'll even say, week 2 or 3, they're like, these kids don't know what they're doing. These kids don't know what they're doing. They don't know their stuff. They don't know their stuff. And then 2 weeks before, they're starting to get there. And then the week of, we're getting closer. And then the day before, they've got it. And it's human nature. Deadlines make progress, and so they all know that. But that last week is a huge growth week. Not only the 5 weeks or 3 months, but that last week especially is a huge growth process.
Yeah, I think if we were able to find the solution to like, how do I get my students to act like they're performing every single rehearsal, that would just solve so many problems, right? But for whatever reason, that first day sight readings, wow, that sounds amazing. The next day, it's like, what happened? Like, why were you like in concert band mode or concert like sight reading mode? And then like we're like, what's going on now? So, all right. So for the band side of things, it's similar. This particular year, because I mentioned in the first episode that this is my first year at Monmouth, so trying to, and I think generally speaking, if you're a first year teacher anywhere, whether you've been a veteran for like 5 or 6 years or like you're totally brand new, that first year is just like hitting the ground running, trying to figure out how to do things and keeping as many notes as possible how to do it better next year, which all those things I have been doing. So we'll get a little bit later on of what like things for next year to consider, but where are we going with that? Oh, so starting with the band this year, we kind of took a survey a little bit of like with the students, kind of like December-ish, very end of November, December-ish, and what's kind of neat is that, Miss Hallen and the previous director, Kyle Barshinger, they kind of kept a spreadsheet of like what students did the previous year.
That's important because I always lose that spreadsheet.
And I think,
I get that problem every year. If you don't keep track, you're gonna. I had a kid the week of go, I sang this song last year. Like, why the hell didn't you tell me that a month ago? Like,
right.
I can't. I've got to drop this group now because in the rules you can't sing the same song twice. Which absolutely makes sense. But
yes.
You really waited until the week of to tell me.
Right.
I sing singing a different voice part of a song.
Yeah.
Is okay. Singing the exact same voice part of a song is not okay.
Yeah.
So anyway,
No, you're good. No, I
Sorry.
think it's funny because like the kids, well, again, procrastination. They're not gonna tell you like, oh, I'll tell him tomorrow, and it's been like 3 weeks, and it's like, oh, I counted in 2 weeks. Everybody tell them I've already done this before.
I kind of love when that happens, especially like there's one group that both you and I picked out the same song for, and we had them put on the spreadsheet, and it's like, this is a song for them.
Mm-hmm.
And just like when I pick out the same solo for someone as last year, it was like, okay, that was a good fit for them.
Mm-hmm. I think one thing too is like keeping track of what you give students, and also like as you become a veteran teacher like Mr. Ferry, you gotta learn these tricks of the trade, and you kind of just know like. So if I pick a solo for a student, and it ended up going really well, and I noticed that they get super strong in like, I don't know, maybe counting breasts, or like super like confident in like how to do a ritardando or how to do fermata soloistically, you keep track and you kind of label that solo as like solo teaches crescendos, teaches counting, teaches this, and then when you have that student who needs that push to like get better at that, you assign them that solo. You assign them that ensemble.
Man, you guys are.
I mean, it's
wow.
Talk about like making things easier on yourself.
So, like, I know this is therapeutic for us, but like, I just learned something new. Like, in my mind, I have all those things. I've never written a single one of those things down. Okay, so that absolutely makes sense. Like, I have a song in my head right now that I'm thinking
like
about.
Sometimes
that I know what it does, and,
right?
And like I give it to a kid every year, the kid that I need for them to come out of their shell and really learn how to open up and give freedom in their tone and give vibrato. And this is the song that I give them. So I hope they take that next step.
Yep.
But I've never written that down, and I mean. Now I have to sit down and take the time to be more anal attentive about solo and ensemble, if that's even possible.
One piece at a time. But I think, like, for me, that's one thing I'm going to look at next year is, like, what solo did I give a kid last year that really exploded? And, again, we'll get into, like, the aftermath of high school, because I think there were some really awesome things. But, you're going to have your favorite pieces, obviously. You're going to know these solo ensemble pieces by like the back of your hand after like so many years because you've just given it out. But you know that the expectation of like, this student is going to be really strong at X, Y, and Z afterwards is like You just know. And then it plans for you for whatever you're doing the remainder of the year. So if it's like organizational contest, which that will be in a few weeks for us, for high school and for junior high, which that'll be a whole nother episode. But I think, in general, when we choose a piece of music, we of course want to make it something that it's like the carrot in front of the student. It's definitely doable. We give them a lot of things in the music that they already know how to do, but then we find those one or two things that it's like they need to get better at this. And so we give it to them. And to go back to what Mr. Ferry said earlier about, we are very fortunate to have former music teachers. Not like people who played piano in church like every other day for for years. It's like these people taught at Monmouth Roseville for years. So they know how instruments work. They know how and it can help with fingerings and can help with note names and things. This is just a really cool thing, or one of the many cool things that we have.
With that, as we're part of this is to help other teachers. So I think a lot of young teachers especially are potentially intimidated by the person that I took their place, right? They're retired.
Yeah.
I'm in their position, so they might be intimidated to reach out. Mm-hmm. But I mean, Kyle Barshinger took Joy Boostром's place, and the next year Joy Boostrom was here working with solo and ensemble kids, and Joan Blent retired, and she immediately was here working with our kids on solo and ensemble. Mm-hmm. Don't be scared to reach out to former music teachers and see if they're going to be willing to help. Now, obviously, you've got to find the way to compensate them for that, and maybe we can get into that, in a completely different episode of budgetary stuff and things like that we do at Monmouth Roseville. But don't be scared to ask anybody and everybody. We were very fortunate last year. I had this judge that I picked every year, Carolyn Keller, former Galesburg High School choir director. Every year she was a judge. Every year she was a judge for me. And it finally clicked. Why don't I see if Carolyn wants to come and play for us and make a whole lot more money, and if she's willing to put the time in and individually work with these kids. And when I told her this is how much money you can make in 5 weeks versus 1 day, but you've got to be willing to put in time. She said, yeah, I'll work with your kids for 5 weeks. And the compensation does matter, obviously, but I think most former music teachers probably still have that itch to teach kids. Mm-hmm. That's why we all do it. So don't be scared to reach out. This is getting a little bit broader, but Lisa and Art have a great connection at Western Illinois University, and we have Western professors in our building all the time. We're going to start getting Monmouth College professors in our doors more and more. So don't be scared to reach out. Well, if you have that local college, nearby, or former music teachers, because you're not in a worse space than you were if they tell you no. You're just in the same space. So you can enhance your program just by asking those questions. Hey, would you like to take the time? This is how much I can compensate you, whether it's through your school budget, whether it's through your boosters, whether it's through your activity account, however you can make that work, you want to make that work. So sorry to go on that little, but no, sure. I think that's really, really important that you just have to ask. Ask. I think so many people are scared to ask because they're scared to know. Don't be scared of no, because you're in no different situation than you were. You can only better your situation by asking the question. Right? Mm-hmm. We get told no all the time. I know in the first episode I said don't take no for an answer. We ask all the time. And a lot of the times we're told yes, but we do get told no a lot because we dream big. And so ask those music teachers that that are retired and or college professors nearby, because they're going to want to meet your kids and recruit your kids.
Yes. Yeah. And I think there's never too late a time or too early. I think it's just getting it out there. And I think we can definitely make that an episode too of talking we are fortunate to live in an area where myself and Miss Hallen went to a local university, Western Illinois. Woo, go next. But also in town we have a college that has teachers in it, people who teach music regularly.
Wait a minute. Did you just say we have a college that has teachers in it.
Yeah. Hey,
Okay.
sometimes people forget.
Okay. I'm just making sure.
Sometimes people forget. That's what
making
college
sure.
is. It's not just
Making sure.
you just go to school longer. You actually have teachers. They don't call them teachers, though. They call them professors or doctors.
Just throwing that out there. That
Hey,
you said a
first-year
college
teachers,
that has
hey,
teachers.
Sometimes first-year teachers, they just need to know this information. We're
Okay.
here to help.
Okay.
Anyway, going on. We do our little survey in end of November, December. And then during that time, Miss Helen and I start to go through all the books and things that we have, the materials, and start to find those solos and those ensembles. It was definitely interesting to try to work together and find those pieces that work for us and our students, obviously. And then to kind of like, okay, here's your copy, work on this. And again, for like 5 weeks. So between January and February, it's all about like every day we're trying to rehearse a new group, a new solo, a new ensemble, a new choir. And trying to bounce around all that is quite taxing, even for just two band teachers. So to have, like students who are upperclassmen running their own ensembles and taking charge is really a big help. If it might take time for your program, if you're new to the game, to like work on that, but it's okay. Start with those first few like people you want to take to an ensemble, and then over time, when the students say, "Hey, it actually wasn't so bad. I'm going to bring so and so next year. Or I'm going to bring this group of people or my friends next year to do this," it'll start to grow. So it's nice to have upperclassmen who are just confident in their instrument that they can run ensembles. It saves us a little bit of time, and we can work on the students who need it the most. All right, so this year, March 4th, Marching Band Day.
Marching band!
Ended up being our official solo and ensemble day. But before the day of solo and ensemble, we need to talk about what happens the day before. So Mr. Ferry's got a system, and he's going to explain all about that.
Yeah, as I'm looking at the clock, right? Like, we should probably look at wrapping this episode up, am I right? And maybe make a second.
We can make a junior high separate one if you want.
We can make a separate little episode for setup and all that crap.
For hosting.
Hosting.
Yeah, we can do that.
Like,
being in.
I think I don't know how much time we have left here on our. I mean, we don't want to make this an hour long because people will turn it off.
That's true.
Because they're tired of listening to Lisa talk.
Listening to Lisa eat popcorn.
Yeah. So,
we're coming to you from Lisa's apartment today.
Yeah, today. It might sound a little bit different because we're in a much smaller room than a giant
place.
Yes, a much cooler place.
Like, and there's a lot wrapped up into hosting a contest, but like the day of is, we're talking about all of these benefits of solo and ensemble, and I think the hosting part we can talk about. I think that's probably something that we should do later, because that's a little more extensive, and a lot of people are going to be like, I don't give a crap about hosting. I'm never hosting. I go to School X and they do everything, and our kids just perform. But I think
I would have mind with Roseville.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Have them do it because they run it so well.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think the day of, just the excitement, the fact that the building is just packed with kids and parents, and I had a parent one time tell me, at Monmouth Roseville, it's the only place where solo and ensemble is a spectator sport. Like, we have so many parents and family members that show up because our kids have had a lot of success in solo and ensemble, and our kids take a lot of pride in it. One thing that happens at our site is our local radio station, Sunday 97.7, Sean Temple, they come every year. And they broadcast for 2 hours, and they'll talk to the kids. And in Illinois, we have a statewide competition amongst schools that are ranked by class. Bigger schools to smaller schools, and it's broken down into vocal and instrumental and orchestral. And we have live tallies because of the technology we have. As soon as the judge inputs a score, we know the points that person scored and how many points that goes, and it's a pretty convoluted way of getting to a state championship, but it's something that we look at and follow all the time. But our local radio station comes and covers us. It's not the same as covering a basketball game or football game or whatever, but our radio station takes the time to come, gets to know the kids. Sean Tibble, the voice of Monmouth, whatever you want to call him, loves it just as much as he loves calling a football game. So it's pretty cool. I had one kid tell me this year, when we walk into Solon Ensemble, we know we're winning. We know we're the best here.
The school.
We're running the school. We know that everybody's looking up to us. They all know who Monmouth Roseville is, and it's a huge sense of pride. But just watching these kids react, that kid that has worked so hard for 5 weeks get that superior rating that maybe none of us really thought was gonna get a superior rating, but then they do, and the longer you do this, the more you realize that okay, you're gonna have those half a dozen kids that probably should get a superior rating, get an excellent rating, or a good rating, and some kid that's supposed to get a good rating hits the right judge at the right time, is prepared, just everything steps into place, and they jump from a good to a superior, and that kid's on cloud nine, and just the confidence, like Lisa was talking about earlier, just seeing that confidence come out of them. The day of Solon Ensemble and watching our students watch our students.
Yes,
is incredible. And we all know who our top singers are, who our top players are. If this kid's singing their solo, that room has 40 or 50 kids in it.
Yeah, I couldn't get a seat in one of them I wanted to go into. I walked in and it was full of choir kids. I was like, oh, okay. And I stood in the back, but I was like, wow, this is awesome.
We had, several years ago, we had this wonderful piano player, pianist. He ended up playing with the South Dakota State Orchestra. They did a piano concerto and featured him.
Wow.
But anyway, he was doing his piano solo, and he was doing it in our auditorium. Our auditorium is a 500-seat auditorium. You couldn't find a seat.
Oh
like everybody went, like everybody knew of this kid, and like it's just insane. And the kids are like, oh, did you hear that Lisa got a 1 on her? They're just so excited, and this is where we are ranked in the state right now, and oh my Lord, this is so. It's just a different beast, but it's just so much fun the day of watching our kids watch our kids, and the camaraderie that they have. In band and choir, and I think not just to say band and choir, because especially here at Monmouth Roseville with the diverse population that we have, but it doesn't. I think a lot of those barriers fall by the wayside. Nobody cares. There's no, on that day, there's no animosity. There's no, it's just an awesome day that people that may not be friends are rooting for each other that day. And it's really cool. I get that band and choir is not an extracurricular, but that kind of part of it is that we all are working together for that common goal, and that is a huge part of it too. So the day of is pretty freaking special.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think just the whole energy of the building is just incredible. And honestly, a shout out to all the teachers at Monmouth Roseville that actually helped out with that day. We have, how many schools did we have host?
We had 23 schools here this year.
Okay, so if each school brought like 10 events, like do the math, like that's a lot of people coming through. But some schools are bringing like how many events did we have?
We ended up with like 180, Rockridge with 150,
events
with 150
events.
Yeah, that's events, and then
that's like,
and then add the kids into that, So there was one 2020, believe it or not. That was your first year, right?
Yes, it was.
2020. We did have Solon Ensemble, and then 10 days later, the world shut down. In our building, 10 days before, President Trump said, everybody go home for 2 weeks. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We had over 2,000 people in our building.
That's insane.
For Solon Ensemble.
Man.
I mean, it was an 8.5-hour day. We had 2 string rooms, which never happened. This year we had like a quarter of a string room.
Yeah.
But we had 2 string rooms. We almost needed 3 percussion rooms, like 5 brass rooms, 12 vocal rooms.
And this is a high school of 500 students. This isn't like a humongous building.
Yeah. 500 students, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point of how big our building is.
We were packed to the gills, but the energy in that building, like Art was saying, just the energy is, it's so cool. And and we're very fortunate here in Midwest Central Illinois. We have a handful of schools that compete for the IHSA state championship series stuff, and so that portion of it is also a part of it, where Kewanee and Rock Ridge and Monmouth Roseville and Princeton and Mercer County's in there, and all the United, who always does Monmouth United, who always does very, very well.
Yeah.
Like all of these schools, these kids are working their butts off for each other, and there's that friendly rivalry between schools because I at least in Midwest Central Illinois, all the band and choir directors really kind of get along. We all work together, we work for each other, we do things for each other, and so, but we're competing against each other, and believe it or not, talking a little smack every now and again.
But then the next day being like, oh my gosh, can you help me? Like, can you send me this part because mine got eaten by a dog?
Yeah, that day of it's just so cool, all the way around.
It's electric for sure.
I kind of wanted to talk about that sweepstakes because I know, like you said, for my solo and ensemble experience, I did solo and ensemble, but we did not compete for it. And I think a lot of directors kind of have a negative feeling because I know I came into it being like, I don't know, I don't want, this music is in a competition, and that goes into the whole marching band thing too. But I came into it and I was like, Miss Fair was like, this is what we do for solo and ensemble, and I was like, yep, this is my job, I'm in, this is what we do. And it was just amazing because it works for our kids, and our kids are bought into it, and like you said, they thrive on that, the little bit of competition.
Yeah.
And we talk about the points a lot, but we also know like the musicality that goes into getting a superior, and it just really works because again, I came in like hesitant, like I guess I'm one of those schools now, and then I was like, oh, okay, this really works because of the culture Mr. Ferry and the previous band directors have built up.
I think the debate of whether music should be competitive or not is one that a lot of music teachers have. And I'm totally fine with having that debate. And I'm totally fine if you don't think music should be a competition. But everybody's goal at the end of the day is to make the best musicians out of our kids that we possibly can.
Yes.
Why not win a state championship on the way?
Absolutely.
Something that, Bill Parcells said it, for the rest of your life, they can never tell you couldn't do it. And our kids get to walk away saying we were state champions.
Yes.
We were the best in the state at what we do. And if that's what motivates them to work on articulation and rests and breathing and dynamics, then who cares?
Yep.
Who cares what it is that gets them there? It doesn't have to be me standing in front of them the entire time in a group of 20 or 30 or 60 kids trying to teach those things. It can be, I want to get a superior rating at solo and ensemble contest, so I need to work on my intonation, my tone quality, my diction, my rhythm, my articulation, my memory, all of that stuff. It's the same goal. We're just adding points to it and giving kids chances to win medals and stuff like that. So if you're hesitant about, music shouldn't be a competition, it should be about the music. Well, it is about the music.
Yes.
It, at the end of the day, like Lisa said, it's they're learning all of this thing, but this is the tool that they're using to learn it, and I don't care what that tool is, as long as they're learning it and they're being successful at it. And I think that's what I have found I've bought into solo and ensemble. We were big at it in my high school. But like the sweepstakes and the points things, state championships wasn't anything that it probably was around, but we were too small of a school to even consider. But I taught at Bloomington Central Catholic, and in year 2 we were the second. We got second in state, and I really bought into it. I'm like, this is awesome. My kids are so much better. I went to Avon and I said, this is what I think we should do. And the veteran band director there was like, yeah, I kind of like solo and ensemble. And then it started morphing into, holy cow, solo and ensemble is really awesome. Our program just takes off because of it. I will tell you, I think part of the reason our numbers have stayed so high is simply because of this. One of the reasons that our enrollment is so good in band and choir is because of this. Our kids have something that they can latch onto that, when's the last time we won a state championship at Monmouth Roseville? Well, last year, music.
Yes.
But other than that, we've not won one. And I'm not downplaying anything that our athletic, because I coach football, I coach track and field.
Yes.
The best we've finished, I think, since I've been here was in 2012. Our boys track team got second in state. But, we've had some golf success. We've had some baseball success. We've had some basketball success. But this is something that our music kids can grab onto. And this is ours, and we are the best at what we do. What's wrong with that? That's the only question that I would have for somebody that's like, oh, music shouldn't be competitive.
And from an advocacy standpoint, state championship is understandable by everyone in the community.
Yeah.
They might not know that, we can articulate and we use the most dynamics, but they can know that, oh, I know Monmouth Roseville just won a state championship.
We played the minuet in G really, really well.
Yeah,
what?
no.
Yeah,
I don't know what that. I was at a
Uh-huh.
track meet last week or 2 weeks ago, and one of the track coaches, he looked at me and he goes, Coach Ferry, how you doing? I'm like, I'm doing great. How are you? He goes, saw you won your 117th state championship in a row, and I'm like, oh, that's something that a coach identifies with, and can feel like he can have a conversation with me about, other than how's your kid throwing shot this year. So I just think there's so many benefits to it, and obviously if you want to ask any questions or get any guidance, you can email us at
musicinthemakingpod@gmail.com. So, all right. So one quick thing before we end. So what is something that we thought went super great this year, or is a lesson for next year? I think me personally, I think the greatest thing was the points system. I'm gonna go back really briefly. The points for how well the student does on their solo or ensemble or whatever, those points goes towards the overall, and then that overall is added up to organizational, which is full band or choir, and then that's how you get the big trophy. That says like regional champs and whatnot.
No,
stuff.
state.
Or state champs. State champs. So it's state champs. You might have seen them in your own band halls, but that's where those trophies come from. And it was awesome because we maxed out, right? So we had the most amount of points for solo and ensemble, the portion of solo and ensemble contest. And honestly, it was all thanks to students that, we gave solos and we gave ensembles, and they all got ones. And it was incredible to see. And not just upperclassmen. We're talking about, our freshmen. We're talking about our sophomores, our students that maybe are very still, kind of new to the solo and ensemble game, getting ones, getting super top ratings on there. I think that was just the most incredible thing to see that. So, lesson for next year, I think we could, of course, distribute our music a little bit earlier. I know we definitely had some issues trying to figure out, again, which piece did we do last year? Trying to work out that system so it's a little bit more straightforward and or at least more consistent, I should say. I think we could definitely do, me personally, as a teacher who is reflecting, because that's what you should always do, reflecting on how to do it better. That's what I would do better next year. So, Ms. Hallen, what do you think? What was something great and or a lesson for next year of how to do it better?
I mean, I agree with everything you just said. Just figuring out as a team, the music thing, and I really like the whole scanning music and just being able to press print would be awesome. So maybe that's our next project.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
I know. I'm just thinking back about that day. It's obvious. It's a chaotic couple weeks leading up to it. I just remember standing in the hallway and having someone who I wasn't sure, I wasn't sure how their solo was going to go, just come up to me so excited about how their performance went and how their score went, and just those little individual successes. And some people learn lessons about maybe how they need to prepare next year too. So I can think of just several individual ones who just seeing that joy on their face. I was about to be interviewed on the radio. I remember where I was standing. That's just the coolest thing. That's those successes is what I'm thinking.
Mr. Ferries, something great that happened this year and or something that you can do better for next year.
I mean, it was all pretty fantastic. Just our kids just stepped up. You know, I'm in a weird spot right now where I've got my last daughter coming through this, and so it was a huge sense of pride when she gets a superior rating or a perfect score or a best of day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those are proud papa moments for me when that judge walks in and says, "Is this fairy your, you know, is this your," and I'm like, "Yeah." And it's like, "Best of day." I'm like, "Oh, that's so nice. You didn't really have to do that, but hey, okay, yeah, I'll hire you next year too."
Yeah.
Just, I think I think I need to try to get. I need to do a better job next year of making sure I've got the right song for the right kid. And that's really tough with that many solos and ensembles, but I that's something I need to hone in a little bit better, because we all regurgitate the same music over and over, and that's okay. Don't be scared to do that, and don't be scared to give multiple kids the same song. That's okay. You know, there was one year I'll never forget. I think I had 4 boys singing "Give a Man a Horse He Can Ride." I didn't look at the schedule well enough. 3 of them went back to back to back in the same room.
Oh, no.
Oops.
In the same room. And I saw the judge afterwards, and he was like, "So, Give a Man a Horse He Can Ride, the only song Mama Throwsville knows this year." I'm like, well, yeah, I didn't catch that.
Oops.
I need to do a better job of making sure I've got the right kid with the right piece of music. And it's a difficult thing to do, but you know, there's a million other things that we could do better. I hope we had the same success next year that we did and have had for the past several years.
Agreed. Well, I think next, or at least a future episode, I should say, we'll talk about actually the hosting portion, because believe it or not, there actually is a lot that goes into it, and it is a department effort. Believe it or not, it is not a single person.
Yeah, no way, I can't do it myself.
Yeah, so we will definitely have that scheduled or on the docket for a future episode. So, well, everyone, if you have any questions or just want to give a shout out, or if you have any ideas, if you're a teacher or a student who's even listening and you want to know more about the life of what it's like to be us, you can send an email to musicinthemakingpod, P-O-D, at gmail.com, and we'd be happy to hear from you. So
tell your friends to follow us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you like what you hear in the first episode and this episode, which obviously is a bit longer, but a lot of good information, especially if you are that future music educator. We just want to get as much information out there as possible and help you out. So look forward to next time. Next week we'll probably definitely shoot for the Friday, if not sooner.
Next week we don't.
Next
have
week.
Oh my gosh! Next week's the
Happy Easter next week.
Happy Easter. It's right.
not be here.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, we might have to go just.
Oh, Miss Helen says she's gonna be long gone for Easter, so I guess it has to be a duet
Just
only.
the bros. Just
the bros. No
Just the
law.
bros. Just the bros.
So, all right.
Insert eye roll.
Yeah, but from Miss Helen this time.
I roll to Art.
Yeah,
not to
of
me.
course. I would never.
Yeah.
Eye roll at Mr. Fairy.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I was told the funniest thing out of last week's podcast was the side eye.
Oh,
I was told that.
I mean, it's pretty great, especially audio only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Let's go eat.
Next time.
Goodbye.
Grrr.